Good day, everyone. It's Peter Temple again of New Earth Rising, which is my Telegram channel. And I'm putting together a new calendar, my final calendar for you. And I'm calling this God's Will Be Done, because we are at the end, other than for a couple of weeks. And it's all kind of fitting together, and it's all good news, and this thing is coming to an end. So I'm going to give you a calendar update today and kind of keep it as high level as I can so that I don't get too much into the woods and draw this thing out, because I think this is pretty clear as to where we are. And in terms of getting into the weeds, I'll let you do that, because I'm pretty well done. I'm just going to watch this thing pretty well play out from here, because we're that close. Okay, so let's get into it. And I'm sorry I haven't been around for a little while. This has taken about 4 days to get this put together. And really, I presented it about 3 days ago and in my channel, and the problem has been a lot of technical issues. Things are falling apart, folks. And that is in software and all kinds of stuff going on. So it really is the end. All right, so we've had lots of delays. This is my July calendar for the Gregorian calendar, which is, of course, our satanic calendar that we've had to know what day it is all of our lives. And the real calendar is the Julian calendar, which is the Christian calendar. Gregorian is satanic. Julian is Christian. It comes from Julius Caesar, who was a Christian. In 44 BC, he was assassinated, and that's the top of the Roman Empire. And so that all sort of makes sense. We're moving from the Julian calendar over to the lunar calendar, and it is similar, except that it has an extra month in it. And maybe I should do that right now, just talk about the difference in the two calendars. So we've got the Gregorian across the top here. Those are the normal days that you would expect to see in your calendar. Here we are today. I'm sorry, this is doesn't really stand out, but this is the 26th. So it's it's July 26th I'm doing this, 2026. You can shorten that to 2626. You could revert that to 88 or 88, so it's an important date that way, and there's a lot of important dates around here. But we may be expecting a blackout pretty soon, but let me get back to my calendar. Okay, so the Gregorian calendar across the top here, on the right-hand side, these are small numbers. I apologize for that, but there's no other way I can do it. I have to take a calendar and work with that on top of it. And then on the bottom here, we have the red numbers with the J in front of it is the Julian calendar. And I said that's the real calendar. And there's a 13-day difference between the Julian calendar and the satanic Gregorian calendar, but that has, you'll see it here, but I think it's pretty well being erased. The Julian calendar are the real dates, and so here we are on the 26th, and if you took 13 away from that, you would get the 13th, which is right down here. So 26 Gregorian is a good example. Take away 13, you get the 13th on the Julian calendar, and this is the calendar. The Julian calendar is the one the military goes by, and so you're seeing increasingly the dates are on the Julian calendar, and I think they've put back the 13 days that they had that has been taken out of the Gregorian calendar, and now they should be in reality even, and so we're going to revert. We're going to end up with the Julian calendar, which will then morph, and they will tell us what our real date is into the lunar calendar. So let's go look at those calendars, just so you know, because we've got some 7/11s coming up, and I know some people are talking about 9/11. And that might be our date for, like, a major date sometime in September on the Gregorian, but I think the calendar is going to change long before that, so I don't think it's a real issue. But here's the Gregorian Julian calendar here, and there's a 13-day difference, as I explained, between the two of them. There are 12 months in the year. It starts in January, and here are your 12 months, and September the 9th. September is the 9th month in the Gregorian calendar, but September, SEPT, means 7. So they lied to us about that, and that is 9/11 was a satanic number representing 7/11, which is Jesus' birthday. So they kind of stuck it right in our face, where they took down the Twin Towers and created the 9/11 and said, screw you, Jesus. But it is definitely a satanic event. So what they did with this calendar, the Gregorian calendar in 1582, because we were on the Julian calendar until then, Pope Gregory III took out 10 days out of the Gregorian calendar. He reverted to the Gregorian, changed it from the Julian to the Gregorian, and started it 10 days late. So that means 10 days have to go back in, and I believe that that's already happened. And the other thing is that there were 3 more days. If you go from that was 1582. You took out the 10 days. Well, between then and 2026, there's about another 4 days where the Julian calendar has slid. So they actually have to put in 3 of those days. Either going to be 3 or 4. I'm not sure how it works out now, but very close to that. And that will make the Julian and the Gregorian the same calendar. Okay, so that's a little bit of time on that. The lunar calendar, we start that. It's kind of the same calendar, except they've stuck an extra month in here called Sol, which is the month we're actually in now that's nobody's really talking about, because we're still on this calendar, the Gregorian calendar over here, but we are moving and we're into Sol right now. So it starts in April. And so here is your 12, there's 12 dates, 12 months, and then a 13 months, and that is Sol, that goes in between June and July. So when you're talking about the new calendar, September actually ends up being the 7th month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then so 9/11 would be the correct date of Jesus' birthday. 7/11 would be the correct date, reverted from the satanic date of September the 9th, and even the name of the month says 7. So that's where we're going. It's a natural calendar. We'll have 13 months in the year. It'll be over the same 365 days. 64 or 65 with the leap year, and so it's just getting a little bit compressed. So each of these months has 28 days, and that's a natural calendar based on the moon, and that's where we're going. Back to my calendar over here, and so that kind of gives you a heads up on that. This is the beginning of July here, and Sol on the 12th on the Julian calendar. So it'd be like 4/1. If you go April, May, June, July the 4th month is the way I'm marking this, but you could also consider it the 7th month on the old calendar, right? Which would mean that when we get to a 4/11, which we just passed here on the Julian calendar, you can count this as 7/11 with the 3 months of January, February, and March added in, and that would be on the Gregorian calendar, for example. Like we're using those 3 months, the old calendar that we've had. So, there's 2 different dates here, and you got to be careful of that. But for the most part, I'm using the Julian calendar going forward. So we've had lots of delays. My goodness, how many banking executives have they sent to the military tribunals? Thousands of them, I think, at this point around the world. So that's been a problem. Even in Iraq, we had the politicians there hiding money underneath their houses, and huge amounts. So we're getting rid of the corruption. It's taken a while to do that. That's given us the delays. But when you look at the overall, and I've got an ending date here of August the 12th, which I've had for some time, because there's a story behind this. I and a few more people in my channel actually have had downloads from source. That's when we wake up in the middle of the night and hit our alarm clock and realize that it is 1:27 in the morning, taking these numbers 712 and moving them around. I've had, I think, probably 20 at least wake-ups at 1:27 or 2:17. So 1:27 in the morning, I'm talking about 1:27 a.m. or 2:17. And this has been, I had asked earlier on my guardians, I had asked them, when is this going to be over? And they gave me 1:27 217. I never did get woken up at 712, so it's interesting you move the numbers around. But this would mean July the 12th here, but it depends on what calendar you're on as to what month that is. So, for example, we're in July here. This would be this is the 12th on the Gregorian calendar. It's the 30th of July on the Julian calendar, and if you were to add a 3 to this 4 from the beginning of the year, from January, it would be the 7th month. Okay, so that's you get kind of a Jesus' birthday coming in here. So here's where we are today. I'm not going to go through an awful lot of this, except maybe a couple of little events here from the past week. The scare event, I put it all over the place because we've been waiting this. How long have we been waiting for the scare event? Probably half a year. I mean, they've been talking about it forever, and we're in it right now. So you're going to see it this coming week. Here we are now. Here we are going into what I believe is going to be the RV week, and I think that the RV and the scare event, well, the RV is going to be underneath the surface because this is when we're going to get the start of T4B in here, and we're going to get the scare event, and I believe that's the cover for getting all of the humanitarians into redemption centers and get them taken care of, and of course medbed centers, and that should happen first. There's two groups we're waiting for. The general public, which will happen after this is all over, and after EBS is over, after the 12th, we will start working on what we call the normies. What's that? 85% of the population for sure, and it may be a lot more than that. It could be 95%, but there's an awful lot of humanitarians that have to get through this stage here, and the money will be coming out. It's got sort of a yellow background to it, which is, or kind of gold, I guess. And we have a golden ticket here on the 19th on the Julian calendar, which I think is very strong for the next stage. And I've got the emergency broadcast system starting after the 2nd, or on the 2nd, or on the 3rd, somewhere 2nd to 3rd, somewhere in here. That's 10 days in green, would take us to my end date of the 12th. And then I think they get the calendar change after that. So let's go back on the past week. A couple of things I wanted to say. The FIFA games ended on the 19th here. And that was on the 4-6, actually, or 7-6 on the Julian calendar. The crown died. We were given that note last on the 20th. So there is no more crown. So Canada, which didn't have any ties to the crown anyway since 1931, and the Statute of Westminster, the Crown sort of says to me, well, Canada is ready to join the U.S. There's really nothing left, and of course we have fires all over the place in Canada and the U.S., and this is taking us into the scare event. So folks, we're there. We were told there was going to be a transition here, and it was quiet the first 3 days of this last week. I think the same thing is going on where we are now. We are told there was going to be sort of a blackout, or there are going to be 3 days of darkness. I don't think that means with the electricity or the lights out. It means that it's going to be very quiet as they prepare for the scare event, which I think is going to be around the full moon. Okay, so we're still on this week. The week before, this was last week, we had on the 22nd, which was Wednesday, we had 1111111. So 8 ones, 422, which is a starting number. We had on the 23rd, we had some pain. We had the Japan bond dump that was announced and may be in the works. I keep hearing weird things about it, but the market is closed this weekend, so I can't do anything until the market opens. We had the Commonwealth Games, it was announced, that would start from July the 23rd and go to August the 2nd, which to me is a marker because there is no Commonwealth anymore. Okay? Commonwealth was all of the crown properties, which would be Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and even the United States, and that was based out of England, of course, the UK. and the crown is dead. So Trump had come out and said there will be no more games. He said that back in here. And that told me that, okay, we've ended FIFA, which is a big marker, this 19. And there's another 19 over here for a golden ticket. So you consider this being a golden ticket on the Gregorian calendar. And heading into this week, we don't have any more games in here, and we haven't heard anything else about the Commonwealth Games, so that's a good thing. We have 7/11 here on the Julian calendar, which I've kind of pointed out, so that is Christ's birthday. I don't know, it's a number for Christ's birthday. I don't know what the actual date is, because we got a lot of 7/11s around here, being July, and we have 2 calendars and possibly 3 calendars to deal with, and so it's all happening right now, and you could consider that, I suppose, the Easter timeline. So you kind of come back and go, well, is this all orchestrated? It could be, because I'm talking about the movie. All the things that you're seeing happening are in the movie, and they're not reality. So we're playing this out. Everything has already happened. We have all of these people, the elites and the leaders and the really bad ones have been picked up. All of the 13 families, that sort of thing, gone a long time ago. The military never comes out with anything as it's happening. They'll do the work, and then they will, and we're sort of replaying it for the public here and educating everybody, and that's really what the last 5 years has been about. So, because we have to bring everybody around to Jesus and the Lord, and also get them to understand that the world has changed and that it was all a matrix that we were living in. We were living in a prison. And so they're going to go, the normies are going to go through the same process that all of the humanitarians have gone through. But that's going to take, I don't know how long it's going to take. Hopefully it's not going to take a full 5 years, because we've gone through hell for 5 years as a humanitarian, and that's all going to change. The 25th is here, the 25th is here, Christmas in July, and that was on the Gregorian calendar. It's the 12th on the Julian calendar, but that has been thrown out there a lot as the start of the RV. I thought we might get on the 26th, which would be, I guess, Boxing Day. They're talking about a blackout in 24 and 72 hours, and I believe martial law is now in place. It really has to be for this week. Because the only way they can really do redemption centers is to have the military in charge. And I believe that is already happening. I've heard from somebody that has very good ties to intel that the military is out there. They're not dressed as the military. They're more looking like civilians. So everything is sort of being done under the radar. And we're moving this whole thing through to the end. And the only time that we're really going to ruffle some feathers is when we start the emergency broadcast system and we wake up all of the normies. And that's going to be a key period of time, of course, that we've been waiting for. All right, so here we are, blackout. It's been very quiet the last couple of days. We may have one more day of a blackout, and I'm talking about just being very quiet and getting ready for the scare event and the arrests under martial law. So the MSM down possibly here on Monday. They've been read their rights, the FCC rights, and they've lost their licenses now because they did not broadcast Trump's speech of a couple of weeks ago. He also did the correspondence dinner here on Friday night, the second version of that, and had some fun with that. And I think that's another marker for the MSM going down. So I think we're going to see the White Hats taking charge of the mainstream media this week. We're told we're going to have 847 arrests or 847,000. This number's all over the place. Don't take it as a valid number. Take it as a symbol for arrests. That's what they're using it for. This is the week of arrests. We're leading into it. You'll see this number 847 all over the place. It makes no sense, but it is a calm. So we're looking for major arrests under these 3 days of darkness and for the remainder of the week. We're looking for the scare event this week, and we're told we're going to get tribunals. And I'm not sure how that's going to happen. I think it's probably over the MSM. When they take down the mainstream media, they'll start converting that to tribunals. I don't think it's the EBS. I think that's more formal and starts on August the 2nd or 3rd. So this week, and it's got a full moon in the middle of it, this week is all going to be about arrests and tribunals and ending up with the internet coming down, I think, at the end of the week. Because if they're going to get humanitarians to redemption centers, they're going to need to send out emails and text, and that's apparently the way it's going to happen. But they'll need, of course, the internet around for that to happen. So the internet really can't go down till the end of the week. So arrests all this week, primarily the first 3 days, and so they will get rid of all of the lower echelons of the bad guys, the corrupt ones. And so we'll see that starting to clean up. Redemption centers and med beds towards the end of the week, and I think the RV has got to happen first, like the actual revaluation of currencies, and that has to happen with the stock market, of course, and the changing of silver and gold, and oil is in play there, and the market has to start coming down. I don't think we're going to see that till the full moon here next Wednesday. Typically, you will get major turns or interruptions in the market, a trend change with a full moon, with celestial events. So there's a full moon here on the 29th. I think that's a very important date. We might get the market top that date. But I'll also say that we are in the market into summer doldrums. July and August are the dates, or to the 2 months of the year, where really nothing happens in the market. We have never, all through the history of the market, ever had a turn down during the summer doldrums. So I'm a little kind of worried about what's going to happen there. But, there's no volume in the market. Everybody's on vacation. And so it could be just the perfect time for the white hats to do that. So look, midweek, I think we're going to get the market top. Or some sort of a top. The RV would then start, and I'm saying RV would be part of that, the revaluation of currencies, but people are using this term for the distribution of funds. The golden ticket, or I'm trying to think of some of the other names for that, but this is where all of the money is going to come back to us, humanitarians first. And of course, if you have Zim, you get first or third dibs on med beds. You'll go into a redemption center. Everybody has to go into a redemption center because that's when they do your biometrics. And they have to take your reading of your vibration or your frequency and put that into your wallet, so it will always be there. And that's how they tell who you are. So we won't need, once that is done, once you get into a redemption center and they do that and they ascertain who you are based on taking in, your government license, your car license and your passports and your birth certificate, they'll ascertain who you are, and they will put that number into your wallet. And from that moment on, it'll be in your phone as well. But if they were to scan you, that same number would come up. So it means you don't need a license, you don't need passports, you don't need any of that stuff, because it will be in your wallet and attached to you, and it is your number, it is your frequency, and everybody has a different one. So that's the key there as to when that starts. But the redemption centers, I believe, we may get the emails and texts coming out earlier in the week, but I think that we're not going to get any appointments until the 30th and 31st and into EBS even, it could be. But I think the first part of this, the scare event and tribunals, are going to mask humanitarians going to redemption centers. All right? I think by the end of the week, the MSM has to be down, maybe somewhere in there. We're told that the QFS, the Quantum Financial System, will be liquid on August the 1st, which is next Saturday. And so that means that if you go into a redemption center, you should have instant access to the money that is in your wallet, and then you'll set up the banking system for yourself, and we're all set to go. So we are at the end. This is going to be pretty interesting going forward. So let me just point to one thing I've got with the arrests. Here's a graphic I pulled out. I can't remember where this came from, but the Pentagon sources confirm 847. See, it's all over the place, this 847. High-level officials will be arrested during the blackout. Well, this may be thousands. Who knows? Former CIA directors, deep state operatives, this is their list. Corrupt politicians, corporate executives, media propagandists, and that's kind of happening now, and I think that's what the correspondents' dinner might have been about, rounding up some of the ones they hadn't rounded up and arresting them by the end of the night. So that kind of leads into the MSM going down early in the week this week, and being in control of the White Hats. I think that's what that was leading into, so an important weekend. We get down here to the clock on August the 2nd, which is interesting. So if I go to the old Mickey Mouse clock, I had asked many times what these 8 little ticks were all about. Okay, and then we've got the 2 down here, and now, so that would say to me 2-8 or 8-2, which would be the 8th month, August, and would be the second day of that month, the 2nd. So this says to me it's an important date of August the 2nd. I know we tried to attribute all kinds of references to the numbers on this clock, but that's about the simplest way of looking at it. It's amazing, and everybody went to the most complicated way, but this is the simplest way, and it's usually, based on kind of the rules of nature, the simplest way is usually always the way it works out. So there we are, going back to August the 2nd, and that makes sense to me, and it's also DJT 20 on the 2nd, so the T in Trump's name is the 20th letter of the alphabet. We could see him leaving on this day. Trump has got to leave the movie. We're also going to see a lot of arrests this week and people stepping down. Many of the characters in this movie have also got to leave. So this week is going to be quite an amazing week. We're seeing a lot of names, good and bad, that have to just leave the scene. All right, so that's what I'm expecting until we get to the end of the week, and somewhere in this weekend, next weekend, August the 1st, we're going to have the internet going down, and then we're all ready for the EBS and the changeover in electricity, because the White Hats need that to do the EBS and the med beds. Okay, so somewhere in here, maybe it's going to be with the full moon. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's some interesting things going forward. So there's the Mickey Mouse clock on the 20th on the Julian calendar, on the 2nd on the Gregorian calendar. EBS then, I think, would either happen on the 2nd in the evening in the UK, is what we were always like midnight in the UK, or on the 3rd. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's 10 days there. So this could end on the 12th, could end on the 11th. It's interesting. We'll have to see what happens. But this seems to me to be the emergency broadcast system and where everything is going to happen for us and wake up the normies. And then we have a big job ahead of us, because they're going to have to go through the 5 years that we went through, and we're going to have to wake everybody up. And this is where it's up to us as humanitarians and starseeds and divine beings to help them along, because the Earth is supposedly in the 5th dimension now, 5D. And some of us are, or 4D, but the normies are the ones that are not awake are definitely in 3D. So that has to change, and we have to get as many people into higher vibrations as we possibly can to make this work as seamlessly, the ascension process work as seamlessly as possible. On the Monday, the 10th, on the Gregorian, which is the 28th, we're getting to the end of the month here of July. On the Julian calendar, we're supposed to have good old Hillary and her arrest announced, but of course she was tribunaled and executed a long time ago, as were most other people. I'm also expecting to see or hear George Bush get arrested, and of course Obama get arrested. I think that's probably the coming week that we're going into. We still have to see, I believe, that Prince Charles is still going to kick it off, and that may be next weekend. So there's a lot going on this weekend before we clear the deck and get into the EBS, which will be and the first 3 days of that is the most important. Now, the EBS isn't the lockdown that we were initially told. Apparently what I'm hearing, and it seems to be the consensus, is that we're going to have what's the word I want? Can't think of it. It just went through my mind there. Where they're going to shut down at 11 o'clock per night, 11 p.m. at night, and open up again at 5 p.m. So they want you off the streets at night. And there's also 5 hours during the day, which they will want you off the streets for. But it's not as if you have to be in your homes 24 hours a day. You'll be able to go out and do any shopping. I think that depending on what city you're in, the blue states with the cities that, you're talking about Minnesota, for example, and other Oregon and some of the worst ones, and in Illinois and those sorts of things, might be a little tougher because they'll lock those down and they have a lot of work to do there. Some of the ones that are Republican are not going to be locked down as much, but there will be no internet, certainly for the first 3 days, and might go over the entire 10 days, okay? So that will open up gradually, and once we get to the 13th, it's going to be a whole new world. So that's that's good news in that, make sure you're somewhat stocked up. But I think with the military, who will provide any food or medical needs that you need, and we should start seeing them on the street this week. I think at the beginning of the week is what I'm expecting. And then once we get into EBS, they will be here to provide for us, okay? And I think maybe somewhat this week, but the main thing, this week is all arrests. Next week is really, let's look after the population and provide for them, and this will be our lockdown, kind of a semi-lockdown over the 10 days. Hillary is supposed to leave on the 10th, which is the 28th on the Julian calendar. Whiplash came out, and I don't think he's necessarily a good guy unless he's been replaced. Whiplash you would know from Telegram, but he came out and said his last post will be on the 11th. And he's a key figure in this whole thing. So if he said that, that is a calm. It is a marker and tells me that it is over on the 11th pretty well. I'm giving it to the 12th because that's of course the number I was given, and many others have had that same number. This is another 7/11 here on the Gregorian calendar, so it'd be another kind of Christ's birthday. But I think the Julian dates are the most important dates. So I'm not giving this a lot of. I don't think this is the real birthday. It's got to be on the Julian calendar, because this is a satanic date here, the 11th. Then we have a new moon. So we have a full moon here on the 29th on the Gregorian calendar, on our calendar, the satanic calendar, and we have one again on August the 12th. We also have a full eclipse, a solar eclipse on the 12th, which would be a wonderful marker for the end, and this is going to be a big deal. So that really, when you see this, you go, okay, look at the wind-up we've got here. And if you put in some of these other rests of key figures, everything should be done by next weekend, August the 1st, and then we go into Let's Tell the World. Okay, and then we have the calendar change at the end. So that's my look at what's going on. Let me just see, I've got a list of things here. I've talked about the internet, the scare event, the Forex. We already have numbers for all of the main currencies. Of course, if you have ZIM, those are the ones that are the important ones, but everybody has to go into a redemption center. So there's no way you're going to be missed. And it will be open for quite a while, because we still have to get the normies through. And apparently that's going to take us, to get them through med beds. They're talking about 2 or 3 years to get the entire world with full health. So this is going to be a long process, but everybody will be awake, of course, at that point. What else have I got here? Iran today, this is the movie, so I'm not sure it's actually happening, but they're going after Karg Island, which they have talked about for a long time, and that has to do with Hillary, I believe, and the uranium-1 contract or stealing of uranium that she went through. So we're all leading up. Everything is leading to the end. Everything is coming out. There'll be a lot more coming out during EBS, and there will be a lot more after EBS. The education is going to go on for a long time. Oil is at about $90 right now. It has to get up to 132, so that tells me something is going to happen with Iran to shut off the Strait of Hormuz. either this weekend or sometime this week, and it will be part of the scare event. I think there are all kinds of things that are going to be part of the scare event, and there should be, if they are true to what they told us in the beginning, some sort of nuclear event happening during this week. So it's going to get scary. It shouldn't be for humanitarians. This is for the normies. So it's to wake up the rest of the population and then get them ready for the EBS. So this is kind of a key week, I believe. And what else have I got here? Got the fires happening. 847 I've talked to you about, and we have a golden ticket coming here. So I think everything is set up. And finally, and I think there really is, they've done all along, going to leave the key elements of this right to the end. So it'll start off slowly. There'll be a lot of arrests this week, you'll see. And then by the time we get to the 31st here, the end of the month, leading into August 2nd, we should be wrapping up all of the arrests. Everything should be shutting down, getting ready for August the 2nd, 3rd, and I believe that will be the EBS. So stay strong out there. There's not that much time to go. We're talking about the new world here on the 12th, 13th, and of course 13 being a Jesus Christ number, and everything looks like it's set to go. So that's the reason I'm calling it God's Will Be Done. Stay well, stay strong. It's just about over.